This episode is sponsored by OwnYourImpactMedia.com.
If your most important thing is to have a life of purpose, which I will tell you trumps passion all day long, when you've got purpose, that's great. That's what's going to pull you through all the other stuff. But you've got to open up space. And what's happening is people are consuming all their time and energy to make money for the stuff that they don't really need, to impress people they don't really know, for things that don't really matter. And that's the big shift. You got to simplify things and open up some space and then go after the purpose, not the passion.
Welcome, everybody, back to another exciting show of the About That Wallet podcast, where we help the sandwich generation build strong financial habits so that you can spend your money, talk about money, and even enjoy your money with confidence. So today I have the awesome opportunity to bring on somebody who has been flat broke, who also has been up on a rise, but then lost it all. And then he's back here to tell his story and on his way to $500,000 in real estate and so many other ventures. And his name is Damion Lupo. How you doing today, sir?
I'm good. How you doing?
Doing all right. Fantastic. So what's been going on with you lately?
I'm sitting here doing what Elon's doing. I'm building a rocket to Mars, kind of. I mean, it's my life is about solving a giant problem. Like Elon's trying to help the species survive, and we were talking, bantering before the show here, and helping America fix the housing crisis. Houses are too expensive. There's not enough of them. And so I've been spending the last few years of my life really narrowly focused on that one thing, to the point where I popped my head up this last year and I was like, what year is it? I don't even know what's happening, because I've been so fixated. And when you build a unicorn, that's what happens. You literally go into a unicorn hole, like a rabbit hole, and you don't come up until way later, and then you say, what happened? What happened to the world? Because that's your entire focus, and that's what I've been doing.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've always heard a lot of people talk about, like they said, there's levels to money, right? And the mindset also changed too. So you always hear, well, follow your passion, solve a problem, you make money that way. A lot of us, we struggle to try to figure out how we even want to live day to day. Especially when I focus with the sandwich generation. You got a kid in tow and then a parent that you're taking care of at the same time. How do you actually go from that mindset shift from, hey, I need to make this money, to now I'm solving problems?
So there's a couple of levels that people tend to go right into. It's almost like I have three levels of wealth. I have your secure level, I have your comfort level, and I have your rich level. And then there's this fantasy passion level that people play with, and they say, follow your passion and life is bliss, and you'll never work a day in your life, and all this nonsense. And I'm not saying you should be miserable the rest of your life. This isn't some Buddhist seance training or something. But what I'm saying is that if you follow your passion, there's going to come a day, probably relatively soon, where it's not as much fun, and you're going to go chase another shiny nut, because you're going to say, well, I want to do passion, and I hate this. Bookkeeping sucks. I'm not a bookkeeper, whatever that thing is. So how do you balance it? What do you do? Well, first off, the reason that people go, I don't know how I'm going to do this. How am I going to go after and build something or create something or passion or purpose? The reason they don't have any energy left, because they're working to survive. But the problem is we've up-leveled using Parkinson's law, meaning we've gone to the point where our expenses keep running in, they keep chasing our income. And I can tell you that most people are spending more money than they have to, but they think they have to, but they're choosing to. So what I'm getting at is, when you can say, okay, what do I really need? If your most important thing is to have a life of purpose, which I will tell you trumps passion all day long, when you've got purpose, that's great. That's what's going to pull you through all the other stuff. But you've got to open up space. And what's happening is people are consuming all their time and energy to make money for the stuff that they don't really need, to impress people they don't really know, for things that don't really matter. And that's the big shift. You got to simplify things and open up some space, and then go after the purpose, not the passion. That's the trick.
Because you've helped so many. Well, you helped so many people, but also you started so many businesses. What was it that kept driving you to start all these different businesses when you're trying to chase the dollar at the same time?
So the shift was, I stopped chasing the dollar. And what I did is in the beginning, I made millions of dollars chasing the dollars, but it was never enough. And so I was like, man, I got made $1 million, need to make two. I got a Ferrari, now I need another one. And it was, I went from, not having anything, and and like my first house, I bought a rental house on my credit card. I had no money for a down payment, so I used my Visa. So like, I really truly came from nothing. And my Visa limit was like 10 grand. So it's not like I did not start like Donald Trump started with a 10 or $20 million thing. I had Zippo. So, people could probably relate to that. And so there's a process where I said, okay, what's the minimum I need? I wasn't out there blowing money on fancy bags, or I had a used car, and it was really simple. And I was a roommate. I didn't even have a place where I had a roommate. I was the roommate. I was the $250 a month roommate. So it was making those choices. And I don't think that anybody in the United States has the excuse that their life is too hard or they have too much going on, because we always have this spare time. Everybody does. Even if you have a brand new baby, we choose to spend it on things that are not moving forward our life and our purpose and our vision. And we go, I'm tired, man. I just need to watch some television because my brain's fried. I understand. But if you start investing, whether it's an hour a week or something, in that bigger future vision, things start changing. But most people don't even start it. They go, I don't have time. I'm like, you do have time, but you're choosing something else. That years ago, the president of the United States was working out every day. And I had people telling me they didn't have enough time to work out. And I'm like, you're busier than the president of the United States? No, you are lying to yourself. So you got to stop lying to yourself. You want the hack? Stop lying.
When was the lie stop being a lie to you?
When a lie stops being a lie?
Yeah.
I don't know that a lie is never a lie unless you get some new information that proves that you've been lying and it's actually the truth. So this is about subjective reality versus objective reality. We have perspective, and it's everybody's going to have a different opinion on reality. There are no two people that have the exact same perception. And so ultimately you have to decide, am I crazy? And is that okay? Because as an entrepreneur, as somebody that wants something different in their future than their past, you're going to have to get okay with being crazy. And what is crazy? Crazy is where you're the only one that thinks the way that you do, and everybody else looks at you like you're an alien zombie or something. You're like, you have three heads. And you get used to it. The freedom is when you let go of what other people think about you, and you say, I'm going to believe in myself, and you know when to quit and you know when to keep going. And sometimes you keep going when everybody says stop. I've been there. I've also kept going when I should have stopped. And you go, well, what the hell? What's the difference? And it's called experience. And until you go and you spend an extra 6 months or a year or 5 years doing the wrong thing, you don't know what it is, and you're not going to develop the confidence. That's where that's where financial freedom is. It's in the confidence, because you have the experience. You can't hack that. You have to go through it, and it is not something you do in a weekend or a month or a year. It's going to take a period of time. It doesn't take 20 years, but it'll take longer than a month.
Yeah, because doing my research, I noticed that you talked about your parents. Different, I guess you could say, the yin and the yang when it comes to not just finance, but far as the idealism the can-do attitude. And can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's interesting because parents typically have two mindsets. They have one, and there's my mom, who said, you could do anything. And if you want to be a rock star, and I was like, have you heard me sing? Man, I'm scared of the cats. The cats are running off. They're covering their ears, their little paws. They are running into the woods, and they're never coming back. So she has this optimistic and supported me. And it was like, I love you, and you could do no harm, and you are Superman, or Iron Man, or whatever. And I was like, okay, thank you, but that's super optimistic and no other thinking. And then my dad, on the other hand, is very pessimistic. He was afraid of everything. And so he was like, security, safety, it's all about closing the doors, locking the doors, shutting the blinds, keeping in the dark, and the boogeyman is going to come hunt you down and kill you and eat you. So I had two different perspectives, and I tended to go towards my mom's perspective. And then after I blew up and lost 25 million, I thought maybe my thinking needs to be a little pragmatic and have some defensive thinking, because you can be on the train and say, the train that's coming at me is going to move. And you know what? You're going to be dead wrong. Focus on the dead. And it's that there's a pragmatic, realistic thinking where you say, you know what, the train's coming, going to run over me. So I should probably move, instead of saying, I will will the train to get off the tracks or stop. Like you got to have multiple There's a great book called Thinking for a Change. Highly recommend everybody read that, because it goes through those different things. I did a webinar on this, the 11 different types of thinking. You got to get trained at using the different types of thinking and let your brain grow those different muscles. Otherwise, you're going to be a lopsided, tipsy-turvy type of person that's going to fall over all the time because you have one thing leading you and you don't have a balanced perspective.
Yeah, and the reason why I bring that up is because a lot of the times as parents, I'm not a parent, but our parents would actually kind of heavily enforce in the way how we actually live and operate today, as far as having that huge discernment, and then that kind of like you don't want to have that shame of like, hey, I told you so, when you went to do it, go out there and do your thing. Because you talked about having that confidence from somebody talking about who's done the thing versus somebody who's speculating based on their experience. And that's where I was getting back to, like, how can you tell a lie is no longer a lie? And which you have proven that it has to be done by doing the work. And you have all the tools and everything like that. Now that you've done the work, what are the key points for people who are in their 20s or even 30s or even in their 40s that are looking into getting into real estate so that they don't make those high key mistakes?
So here's the great truth. You're going to make mistakes. Some of them are going to be painful and really painful. Some of them are going to be really expensive. It's all relative too. Like painful, there's pain, and then does it hurt? So I can endure a lot of pain. Done a lot of martial arts for 25 years. I understand what it feels like to have a punch. It doesn't hurt anymore. It's just a thing. And what in the beginning I was like, man, don't hit me. I'm going to cry. Like that was like, I didn't want to be hit. Then you get used to it and you're like, oh, okay. It's just, it's part of it. And it's the same thing with all the mistakes with money. We think if we make a mistake, something's going to eat us. Like if I make a mistake and lose $25 or $25,000, I'm going to die. I can tell you I had jobs where I could be eaten alive because I worked in the Arctic Circle where polar bears would actually come eat you if you missed them. Like if you didn't see them, they'd eat you. And I've been in the African safari, on safari, where if you stumble into the brush and you get between mama and baby, he's gonna eat your ass. Like this is what happens. Money mistakes don't eat you. And so what happens? You get used to it. You get used to making mistakes, and that's how you lever up. And what do you do, whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, and you go, I don't know, man, I just don't want that many blows to the head. You have mentors that are helping you avoid the blows to the head because they know how to move. And you get people that have done it. Not people that know about it because they read about it, but people that have actually done it. You want to do real estate? Go find the people that have done what you've done 10 times bigger. Don't go, if you want to go buy a rental house, don't go find somebody that bought a rental house. That's the dumbest thing ever because they have zero perspective. They had one thing, and if it worked, terrible perspective. You want the guy or the girl that's gone out and bought, I bought 150 houses. A lot of those didn't work. I wrote a book called Maverick Mistakes in Real Estate Investing. It was the first million I lost. Forget about the next 25 million. It was just the first million. So find the people out there, and they're all over the place. There's lots of dum-dums out there paid the dum-dum tax. I'm one of them. You get those people and you write them a check, which is way smaller than the check you're going to write when you do the dum-dum thing. So that's the hack. And people go, well, I don't know if my mentor's very good. I was like, well, do some damn research. Ask the questions. Like, holy crap, this isn't that hard. And you talk to a few people and then invest in it. You're not just investing in somebody else, like their perfect advice. You're investing in your commitment. I can tell you that you pay attention to things you pay for. And so if you go, man, I got $2,000 and this mentor's 10. I'm like, all right, what happens if you spent 10,000 you didn't have? You'd be pretty focused. And guess what would probably happen? That 10,000 you invested probably turned into 100,000 pretty damn fast if you got the right person. So that's the great hack. If you say, well, I'm not going to spend the money because I'm not convinced they're worth it. Great. Spend 20 years. What's it worth it? What's your time, your life worth? I can tell you there is almost nothing that I wouldn't write a check for. If I can buy a time machine, I'm doing it. If I can go 10 years into the future and I can spend money to do it in a year, or I can take a jet that'll take me somewhere and it's like 10 times faster than hitchhiking, guess what I'm doing? I'm writing the check. It's about time machines.
So, because you talked about mentorship, what is the difference, or what is your take on mentorship versus coaching?
Coaches have a lot of great things to say. They can have really great techniques, and coaches are awesome. The difference with the mentor is the mentor's been there and done that. I wrote an ebook like 15 years ago about this, and there's value in both of them, big time. The difference is mentors they tend to be balder and grayer than the coaches because they've had their ass kicked for so many times. I like those people because there's a difference. You get emotional intelligence, you get wisdom from a mentor that's different from a coach. Coaches can be trained. Like you go to a therapist, have they been through personally all the crap that you're going through? No, but they have a really good way of moving around through it and techniques. So I have one right now that's more of a coach and therapist than a mentor. And he's brilliant. Like he's like a damn cheat code for life. I love this guy. But has he done this, the businesses that I've done, has he built $1 billion company? No. Does it matter? No, because I know what I'm doing, investing my time in listening to him. I'm not going to ask him, what are the techniques to hire the next 200 people? How am I going to go take an M&A? How am I going to approach an M&A? He's going to go, I have no idea. But let's talk about your psychology, how you're approaching this. Like, he understands what my thinking needs to be in a lot of ways. So there are differences. Are they both valuable? Absolutely. Understand what you're getting into. I think that if you have none, that's a bad choice. Everybody should have a coach or mentor or both, and a therapist, or all three. Like, you're not going to go backwards unless you go and spend the money and then ignore them, or just go there and yak and don't pay attention and do the work. Whenever I go, I do work afterwards. That's usually 2 to 10 times more time than the actual time in session. Like, you go to it. We have the Super Bowl. We're recording this the day before the Super Bowl. Do you think that these people do more than just go to the game? Like, they're practicing. They're practicing in their when they're sleeping. They're practicing in their mind at dinner. They're doing game tapes. Like, you got to be willing to think like that. Think like a pro. What do pros do? Why are they so successful? Because they're doing all the stuff that you don't see. That's what you got to do. Same thing.
I like that, because when it comes to the finances, and this is the reason why I harp on more than likely the psychology of the finances and how everybody actually operate with the money that they get, because we can all get it, but we spend more on our feelings than we do the actual logical thing. Like, hey, yes, spend your money on the necessities. Do you really need that steak dinner? No, you want it. Do you really need to eat meat? No, you want it. And the reason why I talked to you about this is because I know you spent a lot of time on the mindset as you were growing up and going through this process. What was the thing that really changed your perspective on life when you got down to zero, when you lost everything?
Well, going past zero is even more valuable than going to zero. When you have nothing, it's one thing. When you have negative 5 million, that's a totally different experience. And so I got that, and it's like the pain. So we tend to pay attention to things like, for example, when you make a mistake and you lose, way better teacher than when you win. So somebody that says, I've never lost money on an investment, I will never invest with them. I want to know what you've learned when you screw up. So, that was the process for me. I had to go through the thing where I lost all that money, ended up homeless, literally living out of my car in northern Arizona in January. It's freaking cold. I don't care where you are right now. You're probably not living in your car. Some of you might be, but I can tell you, I can relate, and it sucks. And you know what? I had to make some different choices. It doesn't matter where you are. I can tell you that there's a road path from wherever you are to $10 million in 10 years. I wrote a 10-minute ebook on this thing you can download if you want later. And there's a process of doing this. And you're exactly right. Do you want the steak or do you need the steak? Sure. Well, like, I wanted alcohol, and I did that for many, many years, almost every day. And did I want it or need it? I absolutely wanted it. But what did I really want? I wanted the thing that it was associated to it. What I needed freaking water to hydrate me. And, and I needed things that were actually sustenance, food, things. And it's the same thing with money. We have all these things. You're spot on. It's a matter of wants. But what happens is we going back to this, we trade our time and energy for all this crap that we want that makes us feel better, so we have successful moments instead of a fulfilled life. And what we deeply want at a core primal level, we want a fulfilled life. We want to know that there's meaning. We don't want to get to the end and go, oh man, I just had a whole bunch of steak dinners, but I didn't really go after my dreams, my vision. I didn't connect with people. Wow. Why was that? Because I was afraid to actually invest in myself and trust myself and do all the work. So we just do the things that feel good in the moment. And unfortunately, society has gotten relatively easy. In this country, in the United States, it's relatively easy and you can get away with it. And the problem is, you get to the end of your life and you're going to go, ah, shit.
Right. That's going to be your goal. That should go to wait last words. Like, beep. Uh-huh. Love it. But what was it that got you out of that rut? When you actually start coming back, be like, you know what? I need to stop doing this. I know you say to invest in yourself, but what was that first thing that got you there?
So there's a cycle of grief that you go through for a lot of different things. And so I went through it. First off, you pretend it didn't happen. You're just like, oh, I'm gonna ignore it. And then you get really mad at somebody, and then you deny it again in a different form. And you go through all these things. And finally, when you move through that, the thing that got me through it was I spent 18 months with a guy, coach, therapist, and we asked one question. And the question is, what is true? So you asked about lying. Well, I was a damn good liar, lying to myself and pretending. I remember having dinner with a friend of mine and showing him my black card, my American Express black card. You can buy a Lamborghini or a jet on this thing, and I was all excited. I was like, "Yeah, I still got my black card." I don't think I mentioned that it got declined at Costco when I was trying to buy toilet paper. So it wasn't really, it was a lie. So what was true? I wanted people to like me. I wanted the significance. We all want that. We have a basic human need for connection. I wanted to connect. And it was, unfortunately, there was a lot of superficial thing going on with, I'm going to show people and they're going to, man, did they like me or my black card? Right. I don't know, man, like probably a combination. It's like, he's got a black card. He's going to pay for dinner. And I wasn't, not with the black card, because that thing was off. And so getting to the point where I was willing to do the work and asking what is true, that is true for everybody. Going deeper into what is true. It was one question for 18 months over and over, and it just layer after layer. And then I wrote this book called Reinvented Life in 2012 about what that was. Looking back 10 years, what was true? What was true is that I was a money chasing primal monkey. I mean, I was just out there, and I was like one of the world's greatest hedonists. I was out there chasing the steak and the champagne and all the feelings, the emotions. And what I wasn't doing was going deep into the stuff. Like, what's the core? Why am I here? Back to the purpose versus the passion. I was very passionate about the stimulation, man. I was like overstimulated. The only thing I wasn't doing was cocaine. Everything else, I had a story about the shift into purpose. What am I going to do for other people? It went from internal focus to external, meaning it went from me, what's in it for me, to what's in it for other people. And the moment that happened, where that was the obsession, it was very Grant Cardone, be obsessed or be average. I was obsessed about, how am I going to free 1 million people from financial bondage? I think money is modern day slavery. How am I going to do that? I know what the mission is. I know what my purpose is. It's to free 1 million people. Okay. How am I going to take what I've learned and the tools that are out there to go break all these shackles? And that's what's evolved over the last 13 years into these different businesses. But it was the mission, it was the purpose that was driving it. It wasn't just what's going to be fun or what's going to make me a bunch of money. All that crap is a losing game. And when you have that obsession about something that's that meaningful for other people, you'll be blown away at how much money shows up as a side effect. But when you're focused on the money, you're a whore. And that's where most people are. I was. So I get what it's like to be a hooker. Like, hey, hooker for $100 bill. Like, let's go. Whatever it is, I'll trade my time for the dollars. That's a hooker. And we all are good at it in different forms. It's like, wait, I don't want to be a good hooker. That sucks. That's not my, like,
I want to be the worst one.
Go tell your mom, hey, mom, I'm a good hooker. Like, mom's like, like, this is not a good plan. But it's what we do as a default, because nobody is saying it's okay to actually focus on something that's meaningful and deep, and it's going to be hard. Now, mom wants us to be safe and happy and not hurting. So mom says, go get a college education, get a job, and then you spend 40 years miserable. That's not a good piece of advice. It is a very selfish piece of advice that a lot of parents give their kids because they don't want their kids to be hurt. But ultimately, the biggest hurt is when you have regret and you go, man, I never went for it. That's what sucks.
So what would be your advice? Like, the one thing, instead of saying like, oh, don't worry about it, what would be yours?
Well, my advice is to be honest. Like, let's get away from the lion. Let's be honest about where you are. And when you say, I don't know, man, I don't have time, I can't afford it. Like, look at your life. I always say that there's 3 C's: your calendar, your credit cards, and your cash. So like, what the hell are you spending your time on? What are you spending your money on? What have you spent your money on? Like, look at your credit cards. If you got a big balance, it's like, well, all right, what was all the crap that you thought was important that you're still paying on? You're still trading your time. Look at your cash. What do you have any cash? And then your calendar. Like, people, when I talk about cash, it's also like, what's around you. Are you sitting on a house that you can't afford so that you can look good, so you can be in the right neighborhood? Most people can do. They can have a lot deeper simplification of their lives. And what that does is it opens up space, because the more stuff, the more complex, the more time and energy and money is required to keep it going. And you're spinning plates and it's exhausting. I mean, holy shit, I've done this for years. And it's like, wait, my theme in 2025 is simplicity. What can I do to simplify my life? Who needs 4 Vitamixes? Apparently I do. I was like, this is out of control. Why do I have 4? I actually might even have 5 now that I think about it. And I have a bullet. Like, what? I'm one guy. I don't even have a dog yet. Like, but I got all these Vitamixes. This is crazy. But we do this stuff and we all have versions of that in some form. And, unless you're the freaking Dalai Lama, you're probably a little bit more complex than you should be. And that's benefiting you. Like, it's costing you. So what's the advice? Simplify your life. First off, you got to figure out what is true about your life. What are you spending money on? How much of your life is being spent paying for crap you made, decisions you made 10 years ago that you're still dragging along? How quickly can you go attack that? Man, I don't have any money. You know what? You could probably go Uber 1 day a week and kill all that debt in a year or two, but you don't want to do it because you want to go watch football every weekend and drink beer and hang out and do the fun stuff. Man, you already made choices for those things that you're carrying along in your past. Deal with it. Be an adult. You got to get this shirt, man. I'm going to adult for the next 2 years. I'm adulting. It sucks, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then you have this freedom. So it's making that choice. Is it your life or are you a victim? Are you going to take responsibility or are you going to be a martyr to some other crap that you're going to buy into that somebody tells you it's okay. It's okay. You're a victim. No, you're not. You're just being a child. So let's grow up and let's take control. That's where all the power and joy of life is.
Man. Okay. See, I could sit here in this realm of the mentality piece, but obviously you're more than just the thinker in the process. We also got to talk about the doing. And that comes in from the real estate side of the house, which is, I would say, more than likely your passion at this point, or just kind of like a byproduct of all of your passions, or that kind of got you out of your rut.
The real estate's been interesting because I did real estate and that was more of a money thing. What I know that's true is real estate matters for humans. It's not like watches are cool, but do they matter for humans? No, they don't really matter that much. Like, I think watches are kind of cool, but if I had no watches and I never saw another watch, it would not change my life. Real estate matters, and especially with housing. So the reason that I'm excited about real estate is because it is a part of the thing that I'm pouring myself into, and then hundreds of people have poured their time, their money, and their energy into. And it's about creating more real estate, more of the property for people to live in. It's like that and food. I mean, food and shelter. Like, these are the 2 core things. And so if you're involved in those things, that's pretty meaningful, unless you're doing a bunch of GMO crap and killing people with Monsanto. Like, if you're a part of Monsanto, man, I don't have any respect. Like, sorry, but I don't. Actually, not sorry. But if you're building whorehouses in Amsterdam, I'm probably not very impressed with your real estate focus. But for what we're doing, I think it's very meaningful for benefiting society. So there is passion about it, but it's actually hard. So a lot of days there's not passion, but there's an intense focus on the purpose of doing this thing that's going to change society for the better. And that's what we're doing. I mean, when you have 10 million missing houses, at least probably more like 15 million in the United States, and you get to be a part of something. I mean, we're doing something that's fixing that problem with frame tech. That's really meaningful. So there, even if I'm not being paid, I'm still obsessed. I'm like, oh, do we get paid this month? I don't know. Like, when you get to the point of finding that thing where the money, you stop thinking. You're so full of focus on something else. And somebody's going to say, well, must be easy for you to say. No, it's not easy for me to say. It's something I say every day. I've been saying it for a long time, when I had no money and I was literally living out of my car. Like, it's a choice you make. And when you start saying that stuff with energy, not the mantra where you say, I'm a money machine. I'm a money machine. I'm like this crap that people tell you to say in the morning.
Yeah. I heard about
okay.
those.
So lie to yourself for 5 minutes straight and see what happens. You got to have some energy behind it. Like, why are you a money machine? Are you actually a creation machine? Are you an impact machine? Money is a side effect. Stop going after the side effect. It's lunacy. It's not the right move. The right move is, I am a creation machine. I am the person that's going to impact and lift up other people. And here, that's who you believe you are. Everybody's going to get the hell out of the way, or they're going to get on your train, because it's a different energy.
Yeah, I like that. When it comes to real estate and somebody's just getting into it, a lot of times you hear about a lot of the gurus say, like, oh yeah, you can just start money with no money. Like, you can get into real estate with no money. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on that one?
I did. I mean, it was Chase Bank's money when I went I went and bought that house, and I took a cash advance on my credit card. Wasn't my I mean, it was sort of like future Damien's money. I had to go get it somehow, and so there's, yes, are the tools and the tactics there? Can you do it? Yes. Is it crazy from most people's perspective to go do zero down? Yeah. And does it work? Yeah, if you do. And so, like, that's the hack. People are like, well, what should I do? I'm like, I have no freaking idea. But whatever you do, go do it. Don't just like start it, but do it all the way through, and think about it with other people that have insight. That, what do people do in real estate? Get around to people that have actually already done it, that are still doing it better, but absolutely people that have done it. Not just, you don't want somebody that did it 40 damn years ago. You also don't want somebody that did it one time, or they're telling you they're going to do it. Like, you got to find people that actually have that deep experience. That's the hack. And then you go, well, which real estate should I do? Should I do short-term rentals? Should I do commercial? I have no idea. It depends on where you are. It depends on what you're trying to do. And when you think about, if you could figure out a way to have a deep meaning behind, like if you're doing commercial and you're like, oh, here's why I'm doing commercial. If you're just like, oh, I'm going to make $1 million a year, or I'm going to flip apartments, or whatever you're doing, man, if you're just trying to take money, it's never going to work. And that's what most people are doing. They're trying to take money. How do I use real estate to take money? No, man, the universe will feed you. And you'll get fat if you're producing enough. Of course, you'd be running so fast, you probably burn it off. But I mean, that's just the truth. You got, ask yourself, why am I doing this? There's lots of reasons to do real estate. There's lots of good reasons that are deeply meaningful and fulfilling, that will drive you when it's hard. But if it's just the money, you should quit. 100%, you should quit. It's got to be more than just the money. That's, it's about the wallet. It's not about the money. Get that out of your damn head, people. Like, you got to let the money be the side effect. Go figure out why you're doing real estate. There are a million ways to make money in real estate. And if one doesn't work, go do something else. Like, people get obsessed. Oh, it's got to work. It's got to be, this has to, I'm going to force this thing. I'm like, stop forcing things. That's like yelling at a plant. It's not growing fast enough. The universe, God has a plan. There's called seasons, people. It's not like you can yell at the seed and it'll grow faster. Man, you got to nurture that thing. You got to wait for it. It has its own schedule. Stop trying to force. I've tried to force things. It's called flipping. I tried to flip. I had 5 out of 5 foreclosures. I am the world's worst flipper. There are people that make money doing flipping, but that was me trying to force instead of nurturing, instead of building, instead of finding ways to add more value over a period of time. But you know why we don't do that? Because we're freaking impatient. I want it now. Okay. Got it. That's like people saying, I want to have a 6-pack. I'm like, you got a keg. It's going to take you more than a week. You got to do that gym for the next 2 damn years. I know this personally, because I was looking at myself and I was like, dude, you are fat. Like, this is embarrassing. What is going on here? I'm like, well, I like to hang out, I like to have my beers. And now that stopped. That stopped. My obsession was, I'm going to the gym over and over and over again. And I got a coach, and I'm eating different, and I'm drinking that water. It's different than wine, but I'll tell you what, there's no calories, and I sleep better. And it's like doing that stuff, doing the work. But there's a great book, a bunch of books by Larry Winget. One of them is Shut Up, Stop Whining, and Get a Life. The other one is Your Life is Your Own Damn Fault. It's true. Your life is your own damn fault. Nobody else's. Stop blaming somebody. Go do the work.
I like that. Because before in the recording, we were just talking about having as much guac as you can when you go to Chipotle.
Yeah.
It is like, you could have it, yeah, sure, but do you want a pea green? Like,
it also, there are consequences if you have too much of a good thing. It's like there are things that, I don't care what you're talking about. You could be talking about sex, man. There is a point where there's too much sex. You're like, we got to do a timeout here for a while. It's the same thing with anything you're doing, consuming. There's too much of it, and you do something and you don't sleep. That's too much of it. It could be the world's best thing, but you got to sleep. There are natural seasons and rhythms that if you embrace, they'll serve you. If you fight them, they'll break you. And sometimes you don't know what those are. This is where the mentor or people that will tell you the truth come into play. Man, you're sleeping like, I've had this crazy sleep rhythm. I don't know why. Sometimes I wake up at 1 o'clock. I'm like ready to go. Right. Yeah. But if you went to sleep at 10, 3 hours is not going to work. It's not healthy. So having somebody say, well, maybe that's not the best plan. Maybe you should just lay there and at least be still. whatever it is, having people around you that'll tell you the truth, huge hack for life, man. You got to have those people that will tell you the truth, even if it hurts. And then you respect them enough to say, okay, I hear you. And then shut your damn mouth and go do something about it.
Yeah. I am a big fan of Hercule Durkle. Just sit there when you're supposed to be getting out of bed. Fun times. So, I want to go back to, because you mentioned frame tech. Why frame tech is such a big passion project for you?
Frame tech is a solution, and I get to be a part of the solution and pour myself and take decades of all the experiences launching 70 plus companies, all the pain and failures and everything else. It's taking all that. That's just me, and then there's all these other people that are like incredible that I get to work with. Why is it passion? Why is there so much purpose there? It's something that's big enough to where if I died in the middle of it, I was fulfilled by a purpose. It wasn't just a fun thing. Most days are really hard, and it's like jumping into an ice bath and then just sitting there. You're like, this freaking sucks, but I do it anyway, and do it every day anyway. The idea that people are struggling, a lot of it has to do with their food and their housing. It's like they can't. Well, why is that? Well, with the housing, it's because there's not enough housing, and it's because they're not producing enough. And partly is a lot of bad regulations, but it's just there's no real innovation that's happened. Not really in housing. It's basically you're building the house the same way you've been building it for 70 years with a nail gun. That's when it got invented, 1954. What we've done is we've looked at things, and the innovators have said, there's a different way to do this. Let's do this where we can build the framing for a house 4 times faster. Let's do it 10 times better. Let's do it with 99% less waste. So instead of a dumpster full of wood, we have a bag full of sawdust, and let's do it for the same price. That is a fundamental change. And what we're doing is we're bringing a lot more housing to the market. And when you bring a lot more housing and you have better quality and you do it that much faster, guess what happens? The prices drop. So everybody's winning here except for the legacy. I don't give a crap about the legacy. It's like all the junk that's being found out in Washington, D.C. I don't care about USAID that's wasting $40 billion a year and all these people that are corrupt. I care about that legacy being taken out at the knees. Same thing with construction. How do we take out those old thinkings and remove them, put in place new thinking that produces the solution? That's what frame tech is.
I like that, because especially with the recent wildfires in California, I know there's so many other ones that are happening, but that's been the one that's been circulating the most. You gotta love media, right? So, what are your thoughts on actually building out more of a concrete structure instead of the wooden matchstick houses, as some people actually call them?
A lot of places in the world, that's what they primarily do, and a lot of it has to do with places like, say, Southeast Asia. A lot of concrete because you have wind and rain, and it's just a structure. Concrete is very polluting. That's one of the problems with it. When you're doing concrete, there's a ton of energy required, and energy comes from somewhere. Right now, it's a lot of oil and coal. And no matter what you do, you're going to burn energy. Energy is not necessarily the best thing for the environment in terms of how we consume it. So concrete is a problem. Just the way to get concrete, the way to use it, and it's not necessarily renewable. Trees are renewable. 92% of the housing is built and framed with, the structure, the bones, if you will, that's totally renewable. And almost all housing that has boards, has frames, comes from forests that are forest grown to provide the wood. They're not old growth. They're not the redwoods. So it is incredibly sustainable. And that's one of the things, that's why it's being used. And that's why we use it. And instead of wasting 30% of the trees, we're using 99% of them. So this is way better than any type of concrete. Now, the question about the tinderbox and fires, that's always going to be a thing. And the question is, you got to have some better, smarter policies. Things like, do we just let everything sit on the forest floor and let it turn into a potential disaster? Or do we thin it out? Do we burn things? There are smarter ways, but then you get politicians who think they're freaking God. And they do dumb things and they go, oh, we're going to protect the forest. And then you burn down the entire civilization. Right. What the hell? So, it's a bigger conversation, but ultimately what we're doing is we're producing something that serves the people and the environment. And, it's just hard if Gavin Newsom's involved.
Yeah. So many ways to go about that one. Because I was thinking about that recently, and I was like, why can't people just get rid of the trees around their houses? And they was like, well, society not letting us do it. The laws are holding us against from what we need to do for our housing. Yeah, I'm sorry. That was just one of the ones that were irritating for me.
There's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense, and usually it doesn't make sense because you don't have people that are thoughtful or intelligent that are in the decision matrix with governments and regulations and things, and making decision to save a smelt or whatever this fish was, and not having water available to put out a fire. Like you get people making those type of decisions, which is why it's better to have people making decisions at a localized level instead of having an iron fist from a state capital or something and saying it's only going to be this way. Most people know, like I trust you to know better about what matters to you than I know. But we get a lot of people that think that they're so smart that they should be able to inflict their will on everybody. And I just fundamentally disagree with that. So if you let natural, most things, there are some things, like I remember years ago, there was a lot of companies that were polluting the crap out of the waterways, like the Hudson, and Robert Kennedy went in and he fought and he beat them back and he cleaned it up. Well, if you have pure capitalism, companies can go do that. Well, at some point, some government has to go do some things, but it shouldn't be doing all the crap it's doing. It's doing too many things at this point, and you see some of the results. So with FrameTech is not the government saying we've got a solution. FrameTech is doing something and please and asking the government, get the hell out of the way. And so that's the balance. Most of the time, when you get government out of the way, you're going to have innovators that will create new things, and that's what you're seeing with FrameTech. It's creating something, and somebody in the government's going to take credit for it. Probably the governor of Arizona. She'll be like, "Oh, yeah, I did this." And it's like, I think I want to say, I forget if it was, I don't know if it was one of the presidents, Obama or Kamala or somebody was like, I'm responsible for this. It's somebody that like they created all the jobs. I'm like, you didn't create the jobs. Right. What the hell? You destroy jobs and like the housing. Nobody in government's going to create housing. It's going to be people like us that are out there building it. Their job is to get out of the way.
And then they could take the credit once they got out the way.
Yeah, they'll take the credit anyway, but at least they got it out of the way and get it done.
So what other challenges are you having when you're trying to do this particular solution?
I mean, the challenge is that you want to do it faster because you know how big the demand is, and that's the challenge is it's very, very complicated to build. When you have 100,000+ square feet and you have robots that have advanced AI and you're doing all these things, our facility here in Central Arizona is the most technologically advanced facility of its kind in the world. That isn't easy, man. You want to go flip a house? That's easy. Building a manufacturing plant, not so easy. And so I have a lot more respect for Elon Musk talking about how hard it was and is to build Cybertrucks. And I'm going, yeah, I can start to appreciate that. So the challenge is it's complicated, and you can have the best people in the world. You still have bugs. It's like software. We always get these updates on our software. Oh, fix it. I'm like, I thought you fixed it in version 84,000. They're like, oh no, we got new problems. I'm like, God, this is never fixed. But it's the same thing. It's the challenge is there's always challenges, and you're never gonna. People go, I just want to have passive income. I'm like, so you just want money to come in and it shows up no matter what. I'm like, all right. So if you do that, if you say I got my money and so-and-so is going to give me a return, I never have to think about it. Watch what happens. It's called the law of entropy. If you don't put energy into something, it dies. Go tell your partner. If you're married, go tell your partner, hey, I'd like to have passive sex the next 20 years. Guess how long that marriage is going to last? They're going to leave. They're like, you're lame. This sucks. This is terrible. Like, you can't just be passive. You got to be engaged. And same thing with your money. That's a huge mistake a lot of people do because they're so tired from their work. They're like, I don't have more time to give to my money to create investments. I just want to hand my money over. Guess what? People are waiting for you to do that, and they're going to steal from you. That's what happens, unfortunately, all the time. Whether it's Wall Street or individual charlatans, people are doing that. But it's a lot harder for that to happen if you're actively involved, asking questions, hiring mentors, being a part of teams. So that's a huge lesson for people because you hear it all the time anymore. I just want to have money showing up in my mailbox. MIM, mailbox, MDM. Oh my God. And it's, yeah, that can last. But you know how many Ponzi schemes rely on that? All of them.
And so this brings us to the third segment of the show, which is the futures. So looking ahead when it comes to the construction space, like, what do you think is the next big disruption in construction that people aren't really paying attention to yet?
The big thing that's coming in construction, what we're doing at FrameTech is truly going to change the entire market. It's there's stuff. What's really cool is there's lots of people that are tinkering around the edges. 3D printing is the thing. All of these things are useful. So I look at all these different companies and these innovators, and I go, awesome, awesome, awesome. People say, what about this? Is this going to impact FrameTech? I'm like, it's going to impact society because we're helping. It's a blue ocean. There's so much demand. There's such a big problem. We need all the people solving it that we can get. So what's the thing? The thing that's gonna blow us up is the thing that nobody's thinking about, and it's gonna come out of left field, and we're gonna say, oh, it's gonna be blue energy from aliens. It's gonna be it's gonna be some material science where we go, oh, we can replicate this thing out of thin air. We can print it. We can take air molecules and turn it into wood. Like the alchemy that Leonardo da Vinci talked about in his machines, like something like that could very well happen. Plasma energy, like fusion. Because ultimately, I mean, Trump, whether you love him or hate him, it doesn't matter. It's the energy thing is the core of our society. And if you can solve energy, everything is based on the energy, from your food to your housing. And so what's the thing that disrupts or does something to real estate, to housing? It's probably energy, quite frankly. It probably isn't wood or concrete. It's something that makes the energy basically free. And harnessing the sun, but not with our current technology. It harnessing the atom or plasma. Like, there's going to be something that happens, probably not too far in the future, because we've got a confluence of computing power and AI. You've got AI that's now becoming aware and thinking and solving problems. So we're over there with all these minds and the network effect of the internet with all these brilliant people that are thinking together and leveraging off each other. Well, crap, now you got 100 billion AIs that are all thinking together, and they're doing it faster with more complete information than the people. How fast do you think they're gonna be, and how long is it gonna take for them to solve some of these problems, from medicine and health to housing? You watch, it's gonna be faster than you think, and it's gonna blow us away, and it's gonna freak most people out.
Yeah, I know we're going to jump off the rails on this one, because for the future, for me, I'm actually looking forward to AI handling all my blood work and then providing me with an actual thing based on my DNA. It's saying like, hey, these are the right medicines for you, these are the right concoctions, and these are the right foods for you to have. Because I went to a nutritionist recently, and I was like, hey, what should I eat? And they was like, oh, you should have these basic food groups. And they're going to look at the Del Monte, which is actually under Monsanto, the thing. And I was like, really? I'm already doing most of these things and I don't eat Del Monte. Is there anything else? And I was like, you guys have my blood work. Y'all didn't compare? And they was like, no. I was like, well, then I want my deposit back because this is useless. They wrote me a check back. I was like, thanks, but because it was pointless information. I was there for like 5 minutes and it didn't make sense. So like, I'm waiting for that to happen. What is it that you're waiting for in the future?
So I wait for nothing, and people that are around me. Well, I mean, it's people are like, you move at the speed of light. If something comes out, I'm the first. I'm an early adopter.
Gotcha.
I go, if it's new. I have more microphones than people even know exist, and it's because I try everything, and it's the same thing with medical stuff. So that's a great space because there's so much innovation. If there's a test, like I'm out there doing these crazy full body MRIs that do a scan, and you see things years into the future. If you're going to have cancer in 5 years, this will tell you 5 years early. Like, it's stuff like that. There's a test called a Gallery test, and it screens for like 60 plus different markers for different types of cancers. I do that every year. I'm 47. Is a normal quasi 47-year-old going to do this? No, but am I? Yes, because I want to know what's going on under the hood, and I can't tell. And this will give you information, and it'll save your life. It'll also give you feedback. Your blood telling you what to eat is smart. Like all these tests, and there's levels which shows you your glucose levels. Callie Means and Casey Means are part of that project. The guys that wrote the book that was talked about during the election. They're talking about the destruction of our food and the corruption and everything else. What everybody should be doing is investing proactively, like you're talking about with your blood work, and not listening to some nutritionist or some meathead that's telling you the same thing they tell everybody else because they did a weekend seminar or they're certified in coaching on food. Give me a break. You know what the trick is for food? It's really fairly simple for most people. eat real stuff with one food group.
Exactly.
And that'll solve most of the problems for most of society. Stop eating crap out of packages. Like that'll change your life. But people, they're like, nah, man, it tastes good.
So with that being said, is there anything left that you want to leave the audience with before we dive into the final four?
Yeah, I mean, big picture, you guys fail faster. Meaning, go out there and do the thing that you're scared of. If there's something you're scared of, it's probably the exact thing you should be doing right now. And this could be money, this could be your relationship, it could be your food, it could be making a choice to stop doing something. Like when I stopped drinking, like that was the thing that was the big domino. And I was afraid if I do that, nobody will want to hang out. I won't be fun. And I'll never go on a date again. Like this is a terrible plan. This is going to be I'll never have sex again. I better drink a lot. Like it was like, this is all the thinking that goes on. And so what is that thing? And then go freaking kill that thing and launch that domino. If you haven't read Gary Keller's book, The One Thing, go read The One Thing and embrace the learnings that happen from those things that hurt, the mistakes that you make, and go, wow, it's not winning and learning. It's it's not winning and losing. It's winning and learning. So if you're like, well, that might not work, perfect. You'll learn something. So go do that. Do it faster. Do it sooner.
Got it. Awesome. So you ready for the final four?
Yeah, let's do it. Is Kentucky involved? I'm just checking.
I mean, if you include it. Maybe not the Colonel, but
all right.
All right. Number one, what does wealth mean to you?
It means I own my time. I mean, ultimately, I own my time to do what I want, where I want, with whoever I want, for as long as I want, and I'm not forced in anything. My primary value is freedom, and it starts with freedom of my time, so that I can go work on things that matter, so I can connect with people that matter, so my life matters.
Nice. Number two, what was your worst money mistake?
Holy crap, I literally have written books about this. So my worst money mistake, yeesh. You know, I spent time and money. It's interesting because I've lost millions and tens of millions on all sorts of different things. And I'm the world's worst stock trader and flipper and all this stuff. But the biggest money mistake I made was wasting money on college for somebody else. Like going to college and pursuing something to make somebody else happy, mom, dad, people around me. Spending money, biggest money mistake is spending money to make somebody else happy instead of investing in yourself and making yourself happy. If you're a happy person, other people are going to be happy. If you're just, every time I give money to people, I'm like, whether it's a college or a family member, I'm like, man, that didn't make me happy. It just made me miserable. And so usually it's trying to make somebody else's agenda. And ultimately you should be spending money and investing in yourself, and then watch what happens when you ripple that into other people, because you'll start to ooze, like through osmosis. Other people they're like, man, you're so happy, like what's up? And it's like, that's really powerful. Not, hey, here's $50, I want to buy some happiness.
Number three, is there a book that inspired you on your journey or changed your perspective?
One of my favorite books, it's by a guy named George Leonard. It's called Mastery. There's another one called Mastery by Robert Greene. I'm talking about the one by George Leonard. George and I are both Aikidokis. He died, but we both similar martial art. This book is about it's about the mastery of martial arts, mastery of life. And there's a piece in there about plateauing, and it applies to everybody, whether you're at a dojo getting your butt whooped, or whether you're in life getting your butt whooped. You know, there's this process we go through where when you're growing, when you're studying, when you're doing the work, we often end up in a period of time doing something where it's the same thing. It feels like the same thing over and over. And we're like, man, I'm not making any progress. And it's called the plateau. And if you're willing to trust, if you're on the right path, if you're willing to trust that and keep doing the work, there's a moment where you pop to a different level. You're like, whoa, like I didn't even do anything. Whether that's a martial art move or whether that's something in life where you're like, man, I just made a bunch of money just showed up. Like the side effect, it's like magic. And that was because you stuck with the thing long enough. And it's like the universe said, are you really, really committed? And you just showed up and proved it over and over again. That there's value in understanding that and living it and trusting it in a deep way. So I've read the book multiple times. I think that's a book every single human being should read.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely have to read that one myself. All right. Number 4. what would mean? Say this again. Number 4. What is your favorite dish to make?
My favorite dish to make. So we were talking about, this whole guacamole thing at Chipotle. And the reason Chipotle is the biggest producer of or consumer of avocados is because I have an avocado fetish. And so I'll just go out there and consume avocados. I pretty much will ask for avocados on, I've had it on everything. I think I've had it on cereal. And I don't even eat cereal anymore really, but it's the dish, and I cook and I like doing a lot of different things, but there's something about avocados. They're just, I make avocado pudding. I make avocado, it's unbelievable. You take avocados, put some cacao in there. You want to talk about primal epic food that'll make your body sing with energy and protein and everything. Cacao, avocado, a little bit of salt, some dates mashed in. You get this pudding and you're like, this is a perfect food. You can live off of freaking avocado pudding your whole life. And it's amazing. Nice. So, if you haven't tried it, definitely worth trying.
All right. I'll look for the recipe. Cool. So that one, all right. And the very last question of the show, which is, where could people find out more about you?
The best place to find out about me is go to turnkeyretirement.com. Download that it's a 10-minute book. It's the 10 steps to 10 million in 10 years. And you'll learn about me and my philosophy. It's very quick. And then it'll give you some insights. I think understanding that, because this is not theory. This is what I did to create the millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in my own life and in businesses. So this is not, again, something that I studied in a book or at a weekend seminar. And it'll give you some principles that I've used to do this over and over again. And so you want to get to know me, understand the work that I've done and I'm doing, and use it. And then whatever you don't like, throw it away. But that's what I would suggest if you want to learn more. If you want to listen to me some more, go to Financial Underdogs and listen to the podcast. FU is where to be.
Love it, man. So thank you again, Damion, for coming through, sharing your wisdom from your life experiences, and actually really leaning into all of us and how we actually can be better ourselves, just not from a financial standpoint, but also live in the purpose and in ourselves so that we can be a better person, not just for ourselves, but for also society. And man, if there's any way that we can actually support you and your mission, is there a portal that we can kind of go to or something like that?
The best way to support me is share this conversation. What we've done here, that's the best thing that you can do, is because people, it's amazing. When I lost all the money, I wrote this book and people came to me and they said, man, I thought I was the only one that went through that. I didn't realize until I read your book. And so sharing this stuff, there's a lot of people that could use the nuggets and the things, but they've not heard it. So the best thing that we can all do is share. It's like loving somebody. If you love somebody, you don't not have it. You've just expanded the pie. And when we share this type of information, we're expanding the pie, we're expanding the love, and we're making everything better.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you again, everybody. Please make sure y'all take time out to think about yourself, look at a reflection in the mirror, and really dig deep into yourself and your soul. And I wish you all the best in your journey. And as always, be safe. We out. Peace.